don't know where I'm going now.
I think he's trying to see what's going on.
All he needs to do is speak.
Oh, here he is.
We have started, Reverend Michael.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not hearing him now.
He's speaking, but we're not hearing.
Yeah, because it is saying that he's connecting to audio and can't hear
Oh,
you yet.
okay. Well, once it's connecting, hopefully in a little while you'll hear him. Hmm. Hmm.
Reverend Michael.
Can he hear you?
I can't hear you guys, which means there's something wrong with his device.
Yeah, but can Reverend Michael hear Vance trying to test?
No, he's not
No,
hearing
he's
anything.
not hearing anything.
That's why we said speak.
But I'm not looking in the chat either.
Michael, we can't hear you now. Before we are hearing you, but we can't hear you at all. So we're seeing you, but we're not hearing you. Yes, I'm hearing you on the phone. But your audio is just on. So speak, just speak.
He's speaking, but we still can't hear.
Is the speaker muted? To detect?
But I hear Mrs. Record.
She can hear. No, she's
Yes, we're just hearing you now.
Okay.
We're hearing you now.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So you can begin now.
Yeah.
Good evening, friends. Good evening. Welcome to another Tuesday evening spiritual enrichment service. My name is Michael Record, and I'm a minister at the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. I'm not sure if we have only Temple of Light members with us, but whoever is here, I welcome you. Everything begins at our church, at our center, with prayer, sometimes called spiritual man treatment, sometimes called affirmative prayer. Whatever it is a way of communing with God. And this is what we're going to do to start this meeting, as usual. Please join me in this opening affirmative prayer. All that I perceive around me is God. Spirit is all there is. I am one with the universe. Today, I allow the truth of unification to manifest in my life at a higher level of consciousness than ever before. I acknowledge that there is no conflict in my life. God is always for me, and I'm learning to be for myself. I accept this truth now. I am clear in my vision. I set goals which are reasonable, yet which challenge me to greater heights. I complete what I start, and I only start things that I truly want to do. I rejoice in my accomplishments. There is no complacency or apathy in my world. I am excited about life. I release this treatment. It is done. I rejoice in my confidence, and so it is. Now, it may be obvious to you watching and listening that those are not my words. I deliberately started with a treatment from the creative thought which I read today. I read a treatment from creative thought every day. And this treatment I happened upon, and I'm not going to use the word coincidence, but it is exactly on the theme of my talk. And it is to give honor where it is due and reference. It is by Terry Karanen. So thank you, Terry, for that very appropriate treatment. We will now go within for a few moments of silence as we ponder on the theme today. God is all there is, statement or question. I'd like to have a conversation with those listening. And after my talk, I would love to get some responses. But first, a moment of silence. And so it is. So it is. Happy New Year, friends. Welcome to this first service of the Temple of Light for 2024. It is my pleasure and honor to be conducting it. And I know you'll agree that it's a privilege for us all to be participating together in discussing our wonderful teaching at our wonderful church. And the church happens to be online today. We know it is a new year because we humans measure time more precisely than other life forms. To some plants and animals, yesterday, Monday, the first day of the new year, was just another day. To us, it was the first day of 2024, and we celebrated with hugging, kissing, champagne, and fireworks. Weren't those fireworks that we were able to see around the world beautiful? You know, time pretty much rules our lives. We allow this because we find that it makes us more efficient in doing things, in conducting our lives, to be ruled, as it were, by time. We allow it. Because we get up at a certain time, we go to work at a certain time, we leave at a certain time, we take a break every week, at certain times, Saturdays and Sundays for most of us, and so on and so forth. In some areas of our lives, we get very, very particular about time, measuring it by the millisecond sometimes. The speed at which someone runs the 100 meters, for example. For us in Jamaica and Miami, Washington, D.C., and New York, the new year began a millisecond after midnight yesterday. But it began for others, as I mentioned earlier, long before. On Sunday morning, when I was driving home from church at about 11 o'clock our time, I heard on the radio that some countries in the Eastern Hemisphere were already ringing in 2024. And it occurred to me that literally and metaphysically, our situation depends on where we are, even our time. Whatever they are showing where they are geographically, all clocks that we have in our space and might consider that they are wrong would be right somewhere else in the world. So as Einstein said, time is relative. He was speaking in a different context, and he was making the point, just to digress for a moment, that time moves for you according to the speed at which you're moving. So imagine if you're flying in space at a speed different from the speed at which your twin is moving on Earth. You would be aging differently, the two of you. Even someone at the top of a skyscraper ages differently from someone on the ground. You see, gravity affects time, and when you're closer to the ground, there's a greater pull of gravity. So if you want to age slower, choose where you live, on the bottom floor or the top floor of the skyscraper. You are tall or short compared to others. You are rich or poor compared to others. You're old or young compared to others, etc. So my question now is everything relative to something else? Everything? Is what we are always relative to what others are? As the Ubuntu concept suggests, some of you may remember Ubuntu. It says, I am because you are. So the question is there no real standard that we can measure everything else by? So what about God? We in our teaching would ask. Can't we say God is all there is unconditionally, without any ifs, buts, or maybes? So what I'm asking here is if anything is absolutely certain in life, including the statement, God is all there is. I have been considering it. And before I left church on Sunday, I did a bit of research for this talk by asking several people 2 questions. And they related to the statement that God is all there is. Why? Because it is one that we make at the Temple of Light all the time. And sometimes we say, God is all there is nothing but God, just to elaborate and make it quite clear to our listener. Now, it is something that I believe intellectually, that God is all there is. but sometimes emotionally, with the heart, not the head. I wonder how it could be true when there are so many negative things happening in my life or in the world. And by negative, I mean things that I don't want to happen. So is there a paradox here that God is all there is, but also God is love and God supports us? Is there a paradox? The Science of Mind Declaration of Principles states the ultimate goal of life is, and I quote, a complete emancipation of all discord of every nature. And the goal is sure to be attained by all. And going to scripture, we find that the Bible says, all things work together for them that love the Lord. All things. Suggesting that there are no mistakes. Suggesting that God is in fact all there is. So that every action, every event, every condition is in divine order. If God is all there is. Every action, every event, they're all God in action. So I asked my interviewees, who will remain unnamed. I didn't get their permission to call their names. I asked my interviewees if they ever had any doubts that God is all there is. And if so, how did they resolve the apparent contradiction between their belief and the clear negativity? And again, by negative, I mean things that we don't want to happen. The clear negativity of some experiences. And I found their responses very interesting. One woman told me that the wars of the world and the suffering that they cause made her sometimes doubt that there is nothing but God, as we say. So how did she resolve the apparent contradiction? Some things, she said, you just don't question. You just accept them on faith. Because, and here I found the point she was making very interesting, you accept them on faith because you realize that your human mind can't find the answer to every question when you would like to get the answer to the question. But you believe that at some point in your life, a light bulb will go on. Those were her words. A light bulb will go on, and you will discover the answer to the question that has been bothering you. So she accepts the statement, God is all there is, without question. One man said, he never questions the statement. It's the truth, he said, and we should recognize it as truth. Truth with a capital T. He says, reminding me that the manifest universe is the body of God, and so we are all part of it. And he was referring to the Declaration of Principles. Again, you know the quotes. He also referred to the parable of the prodigal son. That character, the prodigal son, at the lowest point in his life, comes to believe that he's only worthy to be a servant in his father's house. And he returns home asking to be given that level job. But the father, and of course the father represents our Heavenly Father, but the father knows the truth about his son and welcomes him back, not only with open arms, but with a banquet. Another of my interviewees said that the sentence is always a statement for him, not a question, never a question. And this attitude, he said, began with his very first Science of Mind class. I was amused when he said that because I happened to have taught him in that first Science of Mind class, SOM 100. Even if he thinks, he said, about what's happening in his life, that it does not appear to be for the best, he takes it on himself that it is his job to go within and find what direction the circumstance or condition is pointing him towards. There are no mistakes, he said, just lessons to be learned. So he takes every quotes unquote negative event as a teaching experience. Yet another man who you will be able to identify as he comes to church in a wheelchair, said that decades ago, when a bullet entered his left shoulder and went on to lodge in his spine, it was a bullet that just missed his heart. But since then, he has come to recognize that that thing that entered his body has become wisdom. And that wisdom did reach his heart. Sometimes he sends me very poetic affirmations, and he was speaking, as you realize, pure poetry. But I pressed him, what do you mean? I asked. And he said that that bullet that turned into wisdom helped to make him a better person. It gave him, he said, a purpose in life. It has fostered, he said, a close relationship with spirit. Now, how he evaluates the importance of things in his life is whether they are godly, whether they are spiritual or not. If the things in his life, the events, the people, etc., if they are godly, spiritual, he goes ahead with them. If they're not spiritual, he drops them. And he gave me an example of a situation that arose some time ago when he was visiting inmates in prison to give them help, mainly counseling. He was caught in the middle of two sides of a fuss. On one side was his brother-in-law. On the other side were the friends that he grew up with. He was close to both sets of people. But one side was accusing him of supplying ammunition for guns to inmates for the other side. So they took the matter to the Don of the area for judgment. And the Don said, no, that is not, and I'll call him Joe. No, that is not Joe. Clearly, the Don knew Joe's consciousness. He would never supply ammunition to inmates. And he pointed out that even Jesus wanted something in his life to change. He wasn't happy with something that was in his life. And he asked God, and you'll remember when he made the request, he asked God, Father, if it is thy will, let this cup pass from me. So we all have challenges, Joe said. Yes, there is conflict in the world, man-made conflict. And what you should do as you look at that conflict, he said, was A, you should realize that it could be worse. And B, you should realize that just as people made the conflict, it is the duty of others. And it is our duty, because we know better, it is our duty to bring peace. Unlike us in this temple, the people making the conflict don't know better. And people can only act out of their consciousnesses. We know that. This is what we teach. One man spoke about perception, and he said that sometimes what you perceive as negativity is not negativity to another person. So when I'm talking about the negative things that happen in my life, or that I perceive in the life around me, he says maybe those things are not being perceived negatively by other people. And I remembered a class with Reverend Elmer, the founder of the Temple of Light. I was talking about how poor and unhappy and distressed people were in the inner city. And Reverend Elmer stopped me and said, Michael, do you know for a fact that that is how they see themselves? Of course, it stopped me, brought me up short. I stopped immediately. And I try not to judge people in a negative way. From that time, 20 odd years ago, I try not to judge people negatively. This other interviewee continued. He says, though people perceive things differently, everybody throughout the ages has one fundamental perception about God. Everybody agrees God is love. And he emphasized, God is not a loving person. God is love itself. And that is where my interviewing ended, with that statement. I tying it up with the statement that I asked earlier. God is all there is, statement or question. And his statement, God is love itself. And so as I conclude, I have a question for my listeners. Do you ever have doubts that God is all there is? And if so, how do you resolve the apparent contradiction that God is love, and yet there are definitely unloving things taking place by people, being done by people in the world? How can we be children of God, but acting in these unloving ways? And then, just to make the question a little bit more difficult, let me replace the word unloving, because it refers to human beings, with the word harmful, so that I'm now talking not only about people, but I'm talking about what the lawyers call acts of God. And those things are indeed harmful, because there are things like storms and earthquakes and volcanoes. And quite often, they result in the injury or death of hundreds of people. How do you reconcile God is love and God supports us, and these harmful or unloving things taking place in God's world? And that is a question I'd love to have some people respond to. I'm hoping that people have been hearing me and that they'll give me some response.
Reverend Michael,
Reverend
the,
Ann.
the insurance agents would have acts of God, natural events that take place.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do they attribute it to God? The fact is that we live on a planet, and
Yes.
that planet has tectonic plates that move. That's what causes earthquakes. That's what causes
True.
the development of volcanoes.
Yes.
We have weather patterns that happen, and some of the results are cyclones and or hurricanes.
Hurricanes
Oh,
and typhoons and
right.
tsunamis. Yeah,
So
that's right.
how God
Weather
come into
patterns. Yeah.
how God come into that now? I don't know. Because
When,
what is happening on one
Yes.
planet obviously is happening in other parts of the universe. So
Of
why
course.
do we attribute those things to God? I don't know. But
It's a question that occurred to me when I was doing the interview on Sunday. Why are they calling it acts of God when not acts of, nature, natural?
it's
Well,
natural
they do
acts. So
call it
if you don't
natural
like
events.
if you don't like it, I don't know where they're going to live because planets have other stuff.
Yes, yes.
But to go back to
Thanks for that point, Reverend Ann. Yes,
what Reverend Elmer said, which
yes.
is so profound.
Oh man.
When we are making judgments about things, how do we know? That's why
Yes.
that statement,
It-
statement, God is all there is.
yes.
It's not well, this is in my humblest estimation. It really is so. Because when I look out of nature, when I think about how my body works, and I don't have to sit at a computer and program it, to digest my food and to
Mhm.
ensure that my heart pumps blood vessels. And it's the same thing with the tree. The fluid moves up the xylem and the food moves up in the phloem and all that. And
Yes.
there's nobody sitting at a computer programming all this to happen.
Right.
And I am humble because all these things happen. And they happen in order and perfectly. So I don't have to question it.
And may I add, nature supports us. If nature
Everybody
didn't
on this
support,
plane of
if
existence, the
if
same tree
nature
how
didn't
it
support
operates,
us,
exactly. The same tree how it operates in Jamaica, operating in Singapore and wherever.
thank you.
It's the same way.
Exactly. You plant
So
a mango tree in Jamaica and it bear fruit 100-fold, and the same thing as you say, in Singapore. Yes, nature supports us. Yeah.
and
And
we
that
all love, we may show it differently because love is everybody, no matter who they are, understands that we are love. If God is love, then we are. The only thing is that we show it differently. That it by culture or geography or whatever, but
Mhm.
we all come from the same origin. So, I mean, in my
Yes.
humble estimation, I stop at the full stop. I don't have to put a question.
Yes, it's a statement, not a question that God is all there is. Right. Yes. Thanks, Reverend Ann. Useful response. Very, very useful. Anybody else want to take on the question of how they resolve their belief that God is all there is, or the statement that we keep on making at the temple, God is all there is. And yet things that happen in the world don't seem very godly. The man-made things, by the way, not the nature-made things. Anybody wants to discuss the philosophical question? Do hear anybody else? Do hear anybody else taking it up?
You know,
Yeah.
we are the ones who cast judgment on what occurs. and our response directly to what occurs, whether it's a pedophile operating in that realm, or
Yeah.
somebody putting a gun to someone's head. I mean, you think of the most bastardly acts, and we put labels and judgment. And it really struck me many years ago that one can go to war and get medals for killing people. That same veteran
Ah,
to
yes.
comes back home and
Yes.
is able to get a job, and then goes into a drugstore and holds up the owner and maybe shoots him. And he's not arrested and charged with murder. So
Yeah.
we
I
have
thought of that scenario some time ago, Sandy. You kill 10 people in war and you get a medal. You shoot one person, you don't even kill them in the drugstore, and they put you in jail. Yes.
So we have to look
We
at
do.
the fact that we are the ones who have constructed these rules and laws. Not to say we don't need rules and laws, because there certainly would be anarchy in our
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's how whether we judge something as good or bad, as Shakespeare says, it's thinking that makes it so.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
so if we can navigate, and it's not easy, it's navigate and just accept that things are what they are. It is what it is. It's one of the most powerful and empowering statements that one can make. It is what it is, without saying it's good or bad or, oh my God, it's horribly. What you think, and then you perpetuate the negative energy around that event.
By putting on a label, yes.
And discussing it and carrying it, deepening it.
Especially, yeah.
What it is, we just are, situations just are. And so, yes, we are governed by certain rules of engagement. And we want to know that love is guiding. And that love will want us to do what is kind and generous and loving and supportive. And that's where I stand, to choose that way. And I know automatically when I'm off center, because it don't feel good. When I say something or do something that's out of alignment with what I perceive to be the highest order of being. And I can now be present to it and make adjustments. It's an apology or to change my behavior, my thing.
Do it again. Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for that. That is quite deep. I hadn't even turned my head in my mind in that direction. But yes, thank you. We make judgments. We put on the labels. Yes.
Yeah, but you see, if I may be allowed to add, the ultimate point that is to be made is that, as you say so often in your talks, Reverend Michael,
yes,
God did not create automatons. We have choice. So if you will indulge me for a second, I'll just share a paragraph from David Suzuki in the Science of Mind magazine from July 2021. You speak about being governed by time, but Suzuki, and this is just one paragraph in a very important article, I believe, because his point right throughout this magazine, urges throughout this article, is the same thing that you and Reverend Anne were speaking about earlier. The choices that we make indicate to nature how we would have her behave. And so if we insist on wars and mayhem and confusion, and insist on sucking up all the oil and water out of the earth, then the various tectonic plates and other quote unquote natural phenomena will react accordingly. Suzuki makes the point, and I quote, nature was our touchstone and our reference point and dictated the way we interacted with it. He adds, but as economics and politics have increasingly come to dominate our decisions and actions, we have lost our sense of place in the world and our reverence for nature.
Wow.
That is powerful, Steve, because
man,
like if you have something holding up a rock. And that is there by, I mean, I think of Stonehenge, and I think of some of those natural stone formations in some parts of the world where you have a stone balancing on top of a nut. And it is there naturally. And if somebody decide to maybe move one stone, it's like dominoes. You know, the domino or something, them where you touch one, it just triggers the sequence of the dominoes falling.
The whole castle falls down, yeah.
Earthquakes wouldn't happen, or storms wouldn't happen, right? I mean, somebody sent me a picture of Helsha with the water right up to the to a stone wall that has been built to prevent the water from coming further. That used to be a beach. So when we intervene in nature, nature will just do what it does. And you have earthquakes, you have fires, you have sea erosion, and all of those wonderful things that we now label as bad. So we are the ones who are choosing.
There you go. Of course, you're talking about what they call climate change. One of the hottest topics right now. And if we not careful, we're going to change the climate to such a degree that we can no longer live on the surface of the earth. Yes, thanks for that, Sandy. True. Steve, at some stage, I'd love you to lend me that book, the Sense of Mind, so that I can read the article. It sounds really interesting.
It's a very important article, and I believe the seeming paradox in our discussion, today is resolved. We know there's no paradox in spirit. There's no time or space in spirit either.
There you go.
And so it's entirely up to us, whether we accept that God is all there is, yes or no, is really moot, as you have made it. The important thing is, how are we relating to nature and to each other? So we can put any kind of label on it. We can give all the medals, and we can arrest all the perpetrators of whatever dastardly deeds we may think. The fact of the matter is that nature, as we teach, takes her cue via the law from our consciousness in a lot of instances. And so it would behoove us to contemplate that position. Is the July 2021 Sense of Mind magazine. I'm pretty sure there's still a copy somewhere around, but I can show you mine anytime.
Okay. Yes. Reverend Ann put a message on the screen a while ago. Right. Our consciousnesses affect the universe. Yes. Thank you for that. 6:44. It is now time for prayer requests. Thank you so much for the discussion, folks. Found it most interesting. Any prayer requests?
Haven't seen any, Michael.
Okay, if I put that on the screen, I might be able to see it or ask.
I haven't seen any yet.
Okay. Well,
on YouTube,
Okay.
Yvonne Chang Oliver is asking for right action for for Hopeton. Right action. She's requesting right action for Hopeton.
Right action for Hopeton. Yes.
Right, that's what I'm seeing.
Well, let us do an affirmative prayer of right action for Hopeton. We go within, and within we realize afresh that the right action of the universe, the divine action of the universe, is God in action. And we know that we are all children of God, and we partake to some extent of the divine. And we need only raise our consciousnesses to partake even more. We regard the divine, we regard God as an ocean, an infinite ocean. And we take, if we wish, a thimble to get some water, or we take a bucket, or we take some larger container. God gives of itself divinely with the right action according to the consciousnesses that we bring to it. And right now, I know and believe that Hopetoun, because of the consciousness of friends, because of our consciousness as we think about Hopetoun, Hopetoun's level of consciousness is right here, right now, expanding and becoming more and more in tune with the vibratory level of God. And God is able to pour itself into Hopetoun's life so that all of Hopetoun's actions, all of his thoughts, all of his words are in line with, in sync with, in tune with God. And the divine action of God is taking place right now in every sphere of his life. I know that all is well with Hopetoun because he's operating at his highest level right now. And all is well. All is good. All is God. I know this, I believe this, and I release my words into the law of mind, which makes my word manifest. And so it is.
We have two other treatments, treatment of love and also
Yeah.
treatment of health for
Yeah.
Dawn.
A treatment of love and a treatment of health for Dawn. God is all there is. There is nothing but God. And Dawn is a daughter of God. Dawn partakes of the goodness of God, the health of God, the love that God is. She is a child of God. And as she opens her heart, opens her mind, opens her entire being, God pours itself into her life. And there is more help. There is more love. There is all that she needs from God pouring into her life because she's open and receptive to the gifts, the presence, the givingness of God. She has all the love that she needs and desires. She has the perfect health that she desires. That health right now is perfect. The love that she is part of the infinite love of God. All is good. All is well. All is God. Dawn is now operating at her highest vibratory level, the level of the vibration, the infinite creative vibration of God. And the love, the health that she desires is right now being created. It is hers right now. There is no time in spirit. That love and health is now. I know this, I believe this, and I release my words into the law of mind, giving thanks that as I have spoken, it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Rev.
You are very welcome, Dawn. Dawn is a child of nature, a lover of nature. I know that we correspond quite often about things that are happening in our environment.
There's no more requests.
Okay, right, all right. Well, over now to Vance. Are we going to see the notices on screen?
No,
Oh, no, oh, okay.
they're in the process of being changed. So I'm just here to remind
Okay.
everybody that tomorrow we have
Okay.
Labyrinth Walk for the first time for 2024, and we are
Okay.
all inviting everyone to, bring a friend and just allow us to just let that consciousness of peace just permeate our community or island Jamaica. And
Time, Reverend Anne? Time?
It's at 5:30 at the temple.
5:30.
Right.
Okay.
The Ministry of Peace conducts it. That's in the form
Right.
of
Carl.
Carl Livingston. Yes, he will be there. So he'll guide us through that process. So come out
Good.
and join us as we walk the labyrinth and just establish a conscious awareness of peace. And the second item to remind each one of us is that you have been seeing a flag going out for the burning bowl ceremony, which will take place on Sunday, the 7th of January, and it will be led by Reverend Michelle Senegal, our senior minister, and the visioning that goes with it. It's on the Monday at 7:30. Please
Remind us what we're to take.
For that one, you need to take your blank poster boards, because there'll be accessories there, paste, scissors, and all kind of stuff that you can look at and create your own vision board.
You mean, Reverend, and you mean like a sheet of cartridge paper?
If that's what you want to use, but there are actual poster boards around the place that you can purchase in a blank.
Poster boards, like what size is that?
You can usually it's what no. You can
I'm tempted to answer Sandy and saying it depends on the size of your vision.
So therefore you need to bring the size of a
but you can get the
screen then.
There you go.
If that is your vision, that is your vision.
I love it.
I love that. And you don't have to use the huge ones. You can. There are some that I think can take as well. Legal size, usually about that. Legal size.
Yes. Do we bring magazines and newspapers?
Yes. Well, newspaper and magazines, yes, because the colors are bright. But newspaper, I'm not sure.
Well,
but, it's going to be different for us. So let's come out, and as I said before, Reverend Michelle is leading the process. So we're going to have a wonderful time. So
and it will be a learning experience as well, Reverend Anne.
Right. Yes. And we go back to classes. I think there are 2 remaining classes now in the series Ignite Your Life with Bible Wisdom, right?
Igniting.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, Steve,
We have a
thank you.
special guest. We have a special guest on the 11th as well, Reverend
Okay,
Bertrand,
thank you.
Reverend Bertrand
Okay.
Taylor. Reverend Bertrand
Wow,
will
That
be
is
our
not to
special
be
guest
missed at all. That is not to be missed.
that is
on
not
the
to be
11th.
missed. Wow, on the 11th.
On
Okay,
the 11th,
it's
yeah.
it's going in my diary right now. Thanks, Steve. Wow.
That's not to be missed.
Is
Thanks,
that
Steve.
when it resumes on the 11th, or there's a class before that?
We
Steve?
have class Thursday?
No, the first class, this focuses Reverend Michelle on the weekend. So our penultimate class will be Thursday, the 11th. That's when Reverend
Bertrand.
Taylor will be there, and our
Mhm.
final class will be on the 18th.
Okay, thanks for
I
that.
I will be there. Thanks for that,
Right.
Steve. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Right.
Right. All right. Is it time now for the prayer of our Center and prayer of Jamaica?
Yes, no, I think you have a love offering blessing first. And to remember that all we thank you for your generosity, and for those persons who want to contribute, it's visit to our donate page at donate.templeoflightcsl.org, which has all the details, so you can choose which way you want to go. So we'll have the love offering blessing now for those who are about to press that button. And I think we all can say it together. Lovingly, I give, yes.
I give,
joyfully,
joyfully I
I
receive.
receive.
Be thou
Fruitful, increase and
increase
multiply.
and multiply.
Bless,
Bless, prosper, and enrich everyone whom you touch, and replenish all of my financial affairs. Thank you, Father. So it is.
So it is. All right, over to you now, the prayer of our
Okay.
church and the
Prayer of our center and prayer of Jamaica. Please join me. The Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living is a sacred field embodying our spiritual community, from which the Christ, peace, love, and joy emanate, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, and to liberate anyone who comes into contact with it in any way. The light of the Christ illumines us, our center, and our environment. Our spiritual community is filled with and surrounded by the presence of God, and is growing from strength to strength. The power of God expands our consciousness of truth, guiding us ceaselessly along the paths of wisdom, spiritual growth, unfoldment, and attainment. We are blessed, and to God be the honor and the glory forever. And so it is. And now the prayer of Jamaica. The radiant light of God's love is now flowing through us and from us to everything and everyone it touches. The eternal light of God's love now completely fills, covers, and surrounds our island, Jamaica. The glowing intensity of the light of God's love now interpenetrates and awakens within the hearts and minds of our countrymen and women the truths of life which set free. The light of God's love is growing and glowing in intensity in the hearts and minds of mankind everywhere. Love, health, harmony, goodwill, peace, uprightness, integrity, joy, prosperity, kindness, and our oneness under God are now established, and so it is. And in this attitude of gratitude, in this moment of uplifted consciousness, I give thanks for the Temple of Light where we all worship. I give thanks for our teaching. I give thanks for all the services and all those who take part in the services. And I give thanks especially for this Tuesday evening service this evening. And I know that because we have taken part in it, our lives have become that much better, and we have made the world that much more loving, that much more joyful. This is a truth. I know this, I believe this, and I release my words into the law of mind, which has made my words manifest. And so it is. Thank you, folks. Night, night.
Thank you, Reverend Michael.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Reverend.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Reverend
Brian.
Michael.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Blessings.
Brian.